I don't know about you, but I have found it exceedingly difficult to make new friends as I've grown older. It was a lot easier when I was in school. It was even easier when I still had a corporate job. But in this phase of life, and after moving away from where I lived for 20 years, it's kind of hard. So let's talk about why is it so hard to make friends? I'm Larry Cornett, and this is Invincible Life. This is issue 106. Why is it so hard to make friends? The lonely life of adulthood. If you go to newsletter.invinciblelife.me.me, you can read this, and also I've linked to some of the studies that I mentioned around friendship and why it's a little challenging for people to make new friends. And I kind of felt like creating this episode after what happened last week, as I had been doing a bit of a text exchange with some old friends. And we all live in different places now. We're all kind of scattered, but still able to get together occasionally. We've been trying to get together for lunch or a dinner for years. It's been years. And we had it set up. We were going to go out. We're going to have lunch. We're all going to drive, a couple of hours to meet somewhere in the middle. And I turned to my wife that morning and I said, watch this. I bet in the next hour or so, someone's going to cancel. Something's come up. Because this has happened over and over again. There's always some reason that we can't get together. And like clockwork, within the next 15 minutes, I got a text that a friend of mine couldn't make it, one of the guys. And so we had to reschedule, and so we canceled. And we're going to try again in a few months. And the problem with this is we're getting older. We are getting older, and I've talked about some of the health things I've been struggling with that I discovered in the last couple of months. So I don't know how much more time I have. So I have been trying to see people more often, to make more phone calls, to visit, to travel to see my family and my kids as much as I possibly can, because who knows? Who knows how much time I have? Who knows how much time any of us has? And it made me think a little bit about how hard it is in adulthood, and especially later adulthood, to make new friends. And 31% of Americans, this is research that was done with Americans, 31% say they find it challenging to make new friends, and I totally get it. As I said, I've been struggling with it. We lived in the Bay Area of California for, over 20 years maybe, when I was in the middle of my tech career. And so we had a lot of history there. We had a lot of friends there. I had friends from work and various other places. My wife had friends. Our kids had friends. But then when I left the corporate world in 2010, so I left over 14 years ago, we moved away. And we moved away about 8 years ago from the Bay Area and into a more rural location where our quality of life is better. We're closer to national forest. We can go skiing. We have some land. It's beautiful. I love it here. But of course, that meant we moved away from all of our old friends, right? And my wife has been a bit better, I think, about making friends than I have. She still goes to the CrossFit gym that we joined when we first came up here. And so she has some friends from that. And she has some friends in the local community. And, they'll go for walks and talks and things like that. Me, not so much. Not so much. And so my old social circle has slowly slipped away. We've tried to stay in touch. And we stay in touch online and stuff like that. But it's not the same, right? It's not the same. Probably doesn't help that I'm introverted, so that's definitely not something that helps a lot. But it seems like a lot of people are struggling with this. A lot of people are struggling with this. About 1 in 5 millennials say they have no friends. No friends at all. And I shared, there's a visual that shows between millennials, Gen X, and baby boomers, the percentage that have various numbers of acquaintances, friends, close friends, and best friends. So if you go to newsletter.invinciblelife.me, you can see this graphic and a link to the article where they did this research. But it's pretty bad. I mean, I'm looking at it right now, and like 22% of millennials say they have no friends at all. 16% of Gen Z. Kind of the largest percentage are people that have 1 to 4 friends. So not that many friends. Drops off pretty quickly. And then close friends, very few. There are like 27% of millennials say none. No close friends. 22% of Gen X. And best friends. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Like over 30% of people say, yeah, I don't have any best friends. And it's one of those things I think we have as we grow up. When we're young, we're kids, you have a best friend. And a lot of us had a best friend. Sometimes that persists and goes on into college and things like that. But it tends to drop off. And I think there is a difference. At least I've seen this. There's a cultural difference. I know some folks who are, I should say acquaintances. I always say friends. They're friends, I guess. But some of them I've never actually met. Maybe a few I've met. But like in the UK, they tend to have a best friend that they still know and a circle of good friends that they know. Because let's say they were born and raised in London and they never left. And they're still there working. They have a job in London. They've never moved away. And I've seen this also happen like in New York City, where people are born and raised in New York City and they have close friends and a best friend that they've had their entire life. And I met some people at a party like that. It was interesting. I was there for a conference, a tech conference, and I was doing some speaking and stuff like that. And there was an after event party. And I was talking to a couple of people that had never left New York City. They were in their probably late 30s, born and raised in New York City, had never even traveled, never left the city at all. Said, why would I? New York has everything I need. So, I mean, if that's your life, then it's a little bit easier to retain those friendships for the rest of your life. Probably a larger number of us are a bit more mobile, I would say, with our lives and careers now. I grew up in the Midwest, and then I went to Texas for graduate school, and then I went to California for work, and I moved around a whole bunch of cities while I was in California. So, yeah, it's kind of hard to maintain a close friendship if you're moving a lot. And I know people that have moved countries and states, and so they don't settle down anywhere. So unless your partner, your spouse, becomes your best friend, you're kind of missing a best friend in your life, missing a friend in your life, period. And there's a lot of kind of talk about why this happens. And I think some of it is more trust when you're younger. You haven't been burned as much. You're not as set in your ways. You're more flexible. You're still kind of becoming who you're going to become. A lot of forced proximity. If you're in classes all day for 8+ hours or work all day for 8 to 12 hours with the same people, it's a little bit easier to build a relationship and build a friendship. But when that goes away, it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder. And people do have less trust as they get older. We've had some bad relationships and bad friendships, and we've been burned. I've said this, and I've heard other people say, it's like, hey, I'd rather spend time alone than time with somebody who's kind of a false friend or somebody who's going to stab me in the back or betray me. It's like, forget it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it, right? And then when you start a family. So you get married and you have a partner now. Well, yeah, you're not going to have as many poker nights with your friends or weekends going off to go skiing with your friends because you're married, you have a partner. And for a while you do stuff, and we did too, with other couples, but then we had a family, so we had children. And once that started, then yeah, all those friend events dropped off pretty quickly because some of the other people hadn't had children yet. And yeah, they don't want you to bring your children to a grown-up party. And I don't blame them. Yeah. So yeah, you end up spending most of your time with your spouse, your partner, your family. And when you're working and raising a family and you're trying to do other stuff and you have so much to take care of, if you have any free time, you got to shop and you have to clean, you have to take your car in to get the oil changed and you name it. Not a lot of time that's left in our lives for recreation and hobbies and meeting new people, right? You're working really long hours and you have a lot to do. So I think that's a big part of it. I think that's a big part of it is it's just not as common. And I think part of it is the way our cities are structured. So it's not these small walking communities where you see people all the time. When you walk to get groceries, you walk to get coffee, and it's just not like that where we live. I'll tell you that. You have to drive quite a bit to go somewhere and do that. And I think another unfortunate complication, at least in the United States, that has made it even more difficult to make new friends or even maintain existing friendships and relationships, is this political divide that has torn our country apart for the past 8 years. And it's definitely something that my friends in other countries are quite aware of, right? It's not self-contained within the U.S., that it's really just something we know and we're aware of and it's our problem. It's become a global problem. My friends all over the world are like, what is going on there? And they've seen it. They've seen the politics and the rhetoric and just the nasty stuff that's going on. And so they know it too. And the pandemic didn't help either. I think that played into further dividing people who believed in it, people who believed or didn't believe in vaccines, you name it. It got ugly, still ugly. It's pretty bad. So people's views seem to have polarized. There's a great rift in the middle. It's polarized. People have gone farther right, people have gone farther left, and social media makes it even worse. I think Adam Grant shared some of this, but a small number of accounts are stirring the pot. A small number of accounts are sharing the large amount of misinformation, and a small number of people in a small number of communities are really creating kind of this hate-filled rhetoric, and it's pretty bad. And I see it in my local community groups. So we have Facebook groups that are local to where I live. I see it with Nextdoor. There's a few really angry voices that cannot stop talking about politics and saying really hateful stuff about people. And so now you know, right? Now you know. You know, and I know people who have stopped talking to their parents. It's kind of sad. They talk about losing their father or losing their mother to what's been going on, and they just don't talk anymore. Or other close relatives, it's like you can have an uncle or an aunt who's sharing pretty hateful stuff. Old friends, I have old friends from school that are sharing pretty nasty stuff, and it's bad. It's pretty bad. So I've lost friends. I've lost friends because I just don't want to tolerate people anymore who are racist, people who are sexist, homophobic, transphobic, that are constantly railing against immigrants. I just can't do it anymore. It used to be quiet. I did not know these people felt this way. I had no idea that some of these people held these beliefs until it became okay to blast their hate-filled rhetoric all over social media or to reshare memes or videos. I didn't know. I did not know that this guy was racist. I didn't know this guy was sexist. And now I do. Now I do. And that changes everything. I mean, it's one thing to have a difference in political parties and the way you vote and stuff like that. We've had that since I was a child. Since I was a child, it's like, hey, I'm going to vote Republican. I'm going to vote Democrat. People didn't really talk about it much after that. They didn't really argue about it too much. Social media didn't exist. And so you were friends with people that had different beliefs because it didn't come between you as much as it does now. But now you're seeing the truth of how they really feel about stuff. And I don't know. I just can't do it. I don't know how you can, well, I guess if you're racist, you can be friends with a racist, right? But I can't do it. So I've lost a lot of friends. And it's made it hard to make new friends because you start to get to know people. Ugh, I've had this happen. You start to get to know people and you're talking and all of a sudden something really racist slips out of their mouth, or they say something really sexist. Oh, I could never have a woman president. Okay, great. And this friendship is not going to move forward. It's like, get out of here. Get out of here. So it's tough. It is tough. And how do you make friends in this modern world where this is happening? And what you can do, obviously, is make friends with people who think more like you do. And people don't have to be identical to you. Don't get this wrong. I am not saying that someone has to have exactly your belief system and you have to live in an echo chamber. But I'm just going to come out and say being a racist is wrong. Being sexist is wrong. Being homophobic is wrong. If you don't like that, you can unfollow. You can unsubscribe from my podcast. I don't care. Go away. Get out of here. You're not my people. And so, but I have friends from all over the world that are very different than me, raised very differently, different belief systems, different cultures, speak different languages, you name it, but they're good people. They're not racist. They're not sexist. And we have great conversations and we disagree on some stuff. And so I have made online friends all over the world. And I've talked about this before. I've talked about this a lot on finding your tribe, that if you can't find what you're looking for locally, you're going to have to find your tribe online. And you can do that through various things. I've met people through Facebook groups in the old days. I have my own communities that I've built. I'm meeting people, a few on LinkedIn. I'm meeting a lot of people on Threads, which is kind of a fairly new social platform. But it's not quite the same as having local friends, right? I'm sure if you're listening to this, you probably have some online friends. You probably have some people that you chat with and share jokes with. But if you're also, like me, maybe there's quite a few of those you've never met. Not once. And while it's good, and it's better than not having friends at all, it's just not the same as having a local friend, right? Because it is really nice to go out and have a drink with a friend and to talk and to see each other and to hear each other laugh and look into someone else's eyes while they're telling a story. It's a human connection. It's nice to go out and have a nice dinner with another couple. My wife and I have done that. It's nice. It's different. We don't want to sit on a Zoom call with another couple. It's like, what would be the point? It's great to go hiking or skiing or fishing with some interesting people. So you do need that. And so I've been thinking more about it. I've been trying to figure out how to change this. And it's going to take a lot more effort. I mean, one way you can do it is to, find local groups that do recreational activities. So you have to find like a local hiking group. You have to find a group that goes skiing together or snowboarding together. Folks that do trail running together, and they do exist. You have to dig a bit. You're going to have to look on Facebook or Meetup or other kinds of services to find these folks. It's going to take a little bit of work to do that. So you can find people that you could connect with and do recreational stuff with, right? Physical activities, play. I know some of you love to play pickleball. Go play pickleball with people. That helps. That's a good way to make friends, right? I think another way is to find these online communities, but that have local branches. And so I've seen this too, right? So I'm in some online communities with other people who write fiction. I like to write fiction, and I'm connected with a bunch of people that write fiction, and it's helpful. The trials and tribulations of being a writer and trying to make any money doing this and dealing with Amazon and all the crazy stuff that is going on with self-publishing and the traditional publishing. It's a nightmare. So it's good. It's good to have people to talk with and to share tips and advice. But you can then say, okay, well, who's nearby? Who's in this city? I know some folks have met up in various cities and say, hey, we're going to have a meetup. We're going to go have dinner and drinks together. And so that's happening. I've seen where they've shared photos and they've met up. And so I'm trying to do that. I'm digging and trying to find if there's a local community or a local branch of this writing kind of community where I could occasionally get together and we could have dinner and drinks and talk about stuff and talk about our books, which would be fantastic. I think the other that I have seen is people who create these online friendship circles. And so they do it for various reasons. One, I know some folks that have a circle of friends, they play video games together. And so they'll play a game, kind of an online game, or even like Dungeons and Dragons. Just met some folks that do that. And then they'll have a meetup. So they know each other, they play games together, and then they'll travel to various cities. And I know some folks that are really good about this, and they'll say, hey, we're going to be in Boston in 2 weeks. I know some of you are in Boston. Let's get together. Let's get together for dinner and drinks, and maybe we can play a game together while we're there, that kind of thing. And so you have to work hard at that. You have to push for it. You have to really make an effort. It's not going to happen just automatically, right? I'm also seeing that there are social media groups and social media friends who are driving to have meetups. And some people are very good at this. They're very extroverted. They're very good at organizing and pulling people together. That's not my strength. But I've seen this, for example, on Threads. And I know some people have been doing like a Seattle meetup of various people who are all kind of connected on Threads, and a Portland meetup. I'm kind of close to Sacramento, so maybe someday there'll be a Sacramento meetup. And so again, these are people that, you become friends with, and you've shared various posts and laughed at their jokes and supported each other. And now it's a chance to kind of meet in person, which I think is pretty good. One that's kind of interesting that I've had happen over the past, however long it's been, 14 years I've been running these businesses, is making business friends. So there are colleagues, people that are also business owners that have become friends. We're both trying to figure out how to do our marketing and positioning, and, trying to work through sales and work with clients and sharing tips and advice and all that kind of stuff. And they become friends. And occasionally you get a chance to meet with some folks like that. I met with a friend like that. The same happens sometimes with your clients, which is interesting. And I know some people draw a really strict boundary, just like some bosses and managers draw a strict boundary between I'm the boss, this is my employee, we can't be friends. And some people will do that. I'm the business owner and this is my customer, we can't be friends. But I see a lot of people blur those lines, because when you spend years together, and I have some clients I've been working with for over 8 years, we really know each other. We've been talking every month, sometimes multiple times a month, for 8 years. And you get to know each other. You actually build a connection. You get to be friends. And I've met with some folks who were clients, and we've gone out for dinner and drinks. If they're in my city, if I'm in their city, and it's nice. I mean, I don't know. I think you clearly have to be careful with this kind of a relationship, because you don't want it to be where, hey, I'm your friend, you shouldn't be charging me for the business that the service you're providing. Well, it can't be like that. And vice versa. If someone is providing a service to you, they're a business owner, you don't ask for a freebie. You don't do that to your friends. That's not what you do. And so, you got to be careful with that kind of stuff. But I do know people that make friends with, other business colleagues and with clients and customers and you name it. So it is an interesting way to get to know people and to build a relationship. And I do think it has to change a little bit from the way it used to be when we were younger. So I think when we were younger, there was a general concept of this is my friend circle. These are my friends. And they're my friends for everything I do. Like they're my friends I'm going to go out and eat with. They're my friends I'm going to go to a movie with. They're my friends I'm going to play basketball with. It's the same people. My friends, my friends, my friends. Same with your best friend. So you have a best friend. That best friend, you're joined at the hip. Everything you do together. But I think that changes as we get older. And at least it has, I think for me, and maybe again, this is different culturally, or it's different if you're in a large metropolitan area that you've never left. But I think of it almost like situational friendships, contextual friendships, right? So I have friends who are also writers. I'm a writer, they're writers. And so our friendship is through this common bond of writing. But I wouldn't expect my writing friends to go hiking with me. I'm not going to expect my writing friends to go skiing with me. We talk about writing. We talk about publishing and all that kind of stuff. That's the nature of our friendship. I have friends who are solopreneurs like myself, right? So we're business owners, we're solopreneurs, and we talk about business and we talk about marketing and the trials and tribulations of doing all that. But I wouldn't go on vacation with them. I'm not going to say, hey, you want to go to Mexico with me? It's like, it's not that kind of friendship. So it's a different kind of friendship. And then I have my hiking friends, and my hiking friends are the kind of people that I would never probably go to a movie with or, expect to talk with me about my writing because they don't write. So it doesn't make any sense. But we talk about hiking equipment and we talk about new trails and we go hiking together. Or a friend who loves books, or a friend who loves the music that you love. And so you send each other like cool new artists and things like that. And that is the nature of your friendship. So I think it is different, and it does require a different way of viewing these friendships through different kinds of lenses, where it's the prism of whatever your friendship is based on, whether it's literature or hiking or owning a business or reading books or whatever it might be, and not expecting it to be more. And I remember I read an article about this, which is you've got to stop putting so much pressure on the friendships. Like, don't force someone or think someone's going to be your best friend and the end all be all for everything you need, that this friend is going to be always available. And this friend's going to go to every movie with you and read books with you and go hiking with you and go to Mexico with you. I know some people have that, but a lot of us don't. So putting that pressure, I think, on someone is just a recipe for disaster. But I think if you can be flexible and you can accept that different friendships fulfill different needs and are based on different types of connections, then you can have an easier time, I think, of making more friends and having friends that make sense for whatever it is that you share, the common bond that you share. So, I mean, that's my thoughts. I'm an introverted guy who is struggling to make friends, so take it with a grain of salt, right? Take it with a grain of salt. But I am working harder to kind of break through this because I think I need more local friends. I know I do. Something has to change because it is something I think that is missing in my life that I had a long time ago, but I don't have so much anymore. So I'm curious, dear listeners, what's worked well for you? You know, if you've been able to make friends or you're good at making friends, what works for you? What advice would you share with the rest of us who might be struggling a little bit with that? If you go to newsletter.invinciblelife.me, this is Why Is It So Hard to Make Friends, issue 106. You could leave a comment. You could leave a comment and help the rest of us out, and we would all greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Until next time, I wish you the best of luck with pursuing the life of your dreams so you can be happier, healthier, and more fulfilled.